Hello Galactic family. I have read and reread the message of the beloved Old Father, but still all I see is that people are moved as cattle, treated as slaves, and placed on a level of equality, but in a lower position, as if they were numbers, to count plus $1 for billing for the month. What I see are the people who do not pay so much, being discarded as if they were those cattle that no longer offer their supply meat or milk to the one who exploits and consumes their produce. From this perspective, I broadened the field of vision, which made me understand why veganism exists. What moves some activists to commit acts of vandalism and even violence, moved by the feeling of injustice that is born in the heart when they see a living being, to whom they dedicate the loving look, to be treated that way. How, then, to control this revolt in the heart, which makes us understand the reason for so much suffering, and which we are carrying through various incarnations as a feeling of dissatisfaction with our own life, against the system in which we live. How to change this level, how to change this reality that presents itself to us, effectively, and without violence or revolt. The Old Father taught that, being in the slave quarters, we can take the light, we can whistle our smoke, and leave there all this picture of suffering that presents itself before us. For we just focus on something small, and it's how far we can reach so we can actually do something about what breaks our heart. The feeling that appears is to flee from the Sinzala, or remain in it, being labeled as crazy, radical, contradictory in view of everything that people consider normal and healthy. We begin to absorb all this suffering, because we feed inside us the feeling of revolt. But what if we simply do what the Old Father taught? To quench our smoke, and to leave suffering there, choose not to look at it, but to look within, to find our light, and then to live in our light? We will be the greater light still to radiate within the Sinzala, and that will in fact illuminate the lives of those who do not need someone who is angry to buy their cause, but of someone to cherish their hearts. One who observes his suffering, and with love extends his hand, helping to pass through the nebulous road of the life of suffering, but which is part of the history of that being. And that is part, some lesson will have, and therefore our revolt would not only be against the system, but against the natural flow of the life of that being, who is just walking the road he chose. Often we see people suffering, being led as slaves to a system that tries to impose the rules for their own lives, but in fact only they are working healing through experience. And when we look through the eyes of matter, we see only suffering, but actually there is a lot of light. As Master Rowena taught me, she came to remember how light we are, and we add elementals around us, to walk with us, to give us all the support to achieve our goal, which is learning. Like the elementals, the important role is of the one who is just there to give support, but not the one who rebels against the system. A vision that came to me now is funny. Imagine a bunch of elves, fairies and salamanders to rebel against the system? The elves protest. Ha. Actually, I begin to understand the beloved Father Joseph, puffing his tobacco in the midst of the slave trade, during the time of slavery, without being overwhelmed by suffering, and only there available to relieve the suffering of those who are still involved in this illusion, in the same illusion that many of us are involved. Rebellion can lead us, for various incarnations, to seek revenge, raising the flag of justice, but when we see all the damage we do, we begin to realize that we have become the criminals and we are no longer the good guys. And then we came again to rescue and try to understand this process. This is the opportunity of healing, mine and many also, that we have been involved in environments and situations, among many incarnations, and often in the present also, where we perceive injustice to occur, masked slavery that is still part of our reality, both of people and animals. Humanity not only enslaves animals, but is also enslaved by the mind itself, which causes rebellion, contradiction, and revolt to arise, and that is where the feeling of non-belonging arises and prevents us from finding peace in the fullness. Like so many others, we are the vigilantes, but also the tormentors. We are the peacemakers, but also the sick people who need love and understanding. We are those who have been placed within a reality so that a lesson is understood. And that lesson all the old blacks came to teach us, the lesson and the road of our own deliverance. For it was not in the abolition of slavery that it ceased to exist, but it remains to this day, but only by our minds, who insist on holding themselves to this thought, and which does not look at the road of light trodden by the old blacks who were the only blacks to free themselves from slavery. All the other slaves at that time, the blacks, the Jews, the Dutch, all who were victims of the Holocaust, are still enslaved in their own minds, if they do not decide to free themselves from this thought that brings so many memories of suffering, the yearning for justice. But when we reach out to our executioners, showing them that we can whistle our smoke inside the Sinzala, we will carry the love bomb inside the eye of the hurricane, and that it will really be the opening for healing of all to happen, who are the enslavers, as well as those who are with us in the Sinzala, inserted in this illusion, where we help each other to try to strengthen us to manifest a world of peace and love, but that we only come together to suffer together, without being able to manifest some change, precisely. Because we are only sharing our pain, not our healing, we are sharing the revolt against the system, not the love toward those who control that system. We are rebelling against something that is just an illusion, and that there is only so that there is a way to get rid of this sense of slavery that we have brought from so many lives that have passed. We are here living our liberation, if we accept to follow the path of the old black, smoking the smoke and going towards the shining of light and love within the Sinzala. I bring these words here, my dear ones, for I, like many of you, were in the position of slaves. I was in a former incarnation a Jewish girl, who saw all forms of cruelty that can be made with a human being, and which brings to remember only the feeling of revolt that is ignited when I observe some act of cruelty and enslavement of human beings, what a time ago was in relation to the animals, when I created several enemies by to rebel against the cruelty and the acts of lack of love. Today, seeing the situation in the country, the way some workers are treated, where they feel they are enslaved to a system where they feel trapped because they need to pay their bills and support their families, where several are unemployed, working from Uber, or even working in temporary jobs, where they are treated like slaves and thus feel, without at least feeling satisfaction and joy in what they do, but only feeling trapped, with nowhere to run. Seeing all this, it cuts my heart to know that there is nothing I can do, that I can only observe, for I am also part of this Sinzala, and as taught by our beloved Father Joseph, I am learning to bring light to auxiliary, instead of revolting, so that I can definitely contribute in some way to keep my peace in those who decide to observe me. But for that the road is long, the untying of a record of suffering of slavery, of the prisoners of the Holocaust, is something that causes reactions of the most diverse in the human beings, but that can be cured with love. Then, accessing the root of the feeling of revolt, traversing the energetic thread that connects to the Akashic record, and which will show the real cause of this sensation, we can illuminate our record. And so I do, and so will I do until all memories of suffering are healed, until this feeling of revolt is replaced by the purest love. And may he be radiated to all in the Sinzala, following the path taught by the old black. So in this way, still within the Sanzala, we come to discover our true identity, as bearers of light and hope. We will help everyone by bringing words of love without interfering with each other's walk and choosing, allowing one to do free will, but we will be only the light, showing how it is possible to be there within that place, but still be within ourselves, showing how the other look of life is, the look of love and hope, of faith and beauty, of peace and harmony. That is already present there, but that if it is not found within each heart, it can never be perceived in the external. Our role in this environment is only to find this kingdom of the heavens within ourselves, and to show everyone what real life is, rather than the illusion based on suffering and pain. Show how everything can be more beautiful, everything can be lived in peace. But we can only find this force within us. There we have the fuel that moves us, that inspires us, and that will create the reality that we bring from there, which is only the manifestation of light. That is why the connection with the I Am is so important. Even before the studies and the readings, but the encounter with oneself, the connection with that source of light and of peace and hope that we have within us, which will give us the necessary fuel to free ourselves from the slavery of the mind. We will find the door to feel the I Am presence that radiates our hearts, as we undress the flags of justice, accepting life as it stands before us, understanding that everyone on the planet is living their practical soul learning, taking the chance to demonstrate their mastery of life situations. Here is the door to the radiance of the I Am presence in our heart, the simple trust in God. As we open the door, we strip ourselves of the characters, and see ourselves as those who have been placed within a reality, so that we understand the lesson learned in the theoretical schools of the soul. We allow the irradiation of the I Am presence and all cosmic wisdom of our soul, in all existences. As we access the source of light from inner silence, we anchor the solutions to all our problems by releasing the wisdom of the cosmic presence of our own essence. Wisdom that is not brought about by words, but by irradiation, by physical sensations, so we are only able to hear it when we take off the banners of matter, and do as Father Joseph came to teach us, remaining simple, pumping the smoke, even amid the chaos. For just as our bodies are able to feel the energy contained in the records of suffering, so are we able to seek the information of wisdom, but for this we must allow ourselves to feel the energies that pass through our bodily cells. And we do this by stripping ourselves of the gaze of the righteous, who has so often become the tormentor because of a just cause. The benevolent gaze allows the irradiation of these energies, and then we are able to understand how the Gandhi obtained, in peace, the liberation of a homeland only by hearing the I Am presence that he kept in his heart. Doing as Father Joseph, who remained at peace in the Sanzala, as well as the Master Jesus, who cried for his brothers who crucified him. There will be a certain moment when only I Am presence will be heard, to show that the game has been understood. But the state will only be found when we are able to hear this I Am presence, not through words, but in the form of physical irradiation, disconnected from the mind. The mind needs to be free from flags, causes and the search for justice. When we get in touch with this presence, a feeling of lightness and well-being will envelop us. We will feel the freshness that symbolizes the surrender to life. This is the opening portal of the wisdom of our soul, the lightness of being anchored in inner peace, which becomes bodily sensations pleasing to the soul. No words are needed, but only permission stripped of prejudices and judgments. In this state, the entire cosmic history of our essence, which is stored in our records, can be accessed. All wisdom agglutinated through our intuition will begin to show us the path of soul aggrandizement in material experience. As we access this record, we will find clustered in our memory all the teachings we accumulate in the various cosmic experiences of our soul. We need to understand that we did not come here just to learn, but also to test the accumulated teachings. The purpose of material experience is to test the wisdom clustered in the Akashic record, which within the oblivion and obscurity of experience in denser dimensions must be transparent to the point of becoming an insurmountable truth to the radiance of the wisdom and truth contained in our essence. In the higher plane of existence, the soul tests its knowledge, agglutinating them through concrete experiences, where they prove that the teaching was converted to the soul, and not only in words, but in deep experience tested and lived. Hence the necessity of the experiences where we will apply the wisdom amid the suffering of the Sanzala, shown by Father Joseph. This cosmic wisdom of our Akashic record is shared with the I Am Presence, which is a consciousness bound primarily to our soul. The divine I Am Presence, therefore, is connected in us in all incarnational experiences, and then this I Am Presence connects to something greater, called the soul. There is an exchange when the being takes off its judgments and preconceptions, when it collects the flag of justice and raises the sign of peace. In this state there occurs the perfect coupling between the soul in its experimentation, and the I Am Presence in its wisdom. All the cosmic records contained in the soul records are shared with the I Am Presence, and absorbed as collective experience, which becomes light to all creation. So when we decide to connect to the I Am Presence and radiate the light in the Sanzala, we are also illuminating all creation, through the highest connection of the soul. There is an exchange, in which we gather experiences into the I Am Presence, while this I Am Presence radiates us with the wisdom necessary to overcome material experience. It is an exchange that only happens to the one who is proposed to seek their silence, to feel their bodies and their vibrations, to open to the intuition beyond the mind. This is listening to the heart. It is to allow the I Am Presence to radiate us into the whole essence of our soul, free from the concepts and restricted view of matter. Thus the I Am Presence is subdivided into innumerable arms of experiences, all seeking to bring these experiences together into the general register. So the experiences that we live on the planet have as function to test us, precisely with the teachings accumulated throughout the ages. These experiences have the purpose of affirming how much we coalesce of experiences in all our existences, concretely, and not only in schools of the soul, but in life in practice. When we hear that we live on a school planet, we must realize that it is not a theoretical school, but a practical one, where our soul must be mature, to maintain contact with the Presence I Am in whatever environment we are, seeking universal wisdom, and allowing it to radiate into resplendent wisdom in our physical experience. Each arm of the Divine Presence I Am is a door that brings to the cosmic record experiences of the most diverse dimensions. Each fractal keeps the I Am energy in its heart, and receives in its cosmic record the set of monadic experiences. The purpose of being on earth is to be able to anchor this wisdom, coalesce throughout the ages, holding this wisdom in the most adverse means possible of creation. The fractals, extensions of the Divine Presence I Am, accumulate in the universal record that which will aggregate to the monadic whole, which is much more extensive than the simple cosmic understanding of the soul. But there is no point in a closed library with books kept, for this wisdom will only have value as we access these records through the silencing of the mind, and then we will be able to keep ourselves in balance, even if in the midst of all the illusion that pass before our eyes. We unify ourselves through a unique presence that radiates to us all, yet allows us with wisdom, that each one seek those experiences that will add light to all. But as we experience this experience, We can seek this wisdom in the general register, which is precisely what we call here the heart. Listening to the heart is seeking the wisdom I am, and turning into concrete experience agglutinated and tested. If we understood how extensive the cosmic records can be added to the soul, we would redefine our way of living. But this does not matter to the divine I am presence because it would cease to have the experiences necessary for our evolution, and we would fail to test the accumulated knowledge. The divine I am presence that we keep in our hearts redefines our purpose by reorganizing our extensions as we pass with praise on the trials of life. Our experience does not exist, because it is the very unification of expressions in a single consciousness, without limits of expression. The beauty of the universe is amazing, the magic and diversity of experience is embodied in a single being. When each fractal has had sufficient experiences to its development, the only path will be reunification, because the soul is already mature, incorporating innumerable dimensional planes without one interfering in the evolution of the other. All is observation of the I Am presence to its extensions, which in due time will be reunited energetically in a single experience. So is the cosmos, where everything is the extension of the source, which is the primordial energy that absorbs the range of experiences throughout creation. And so it is.